When designing your garden, what I learned that is crucial is sunlight. And you really only know that really through trial and error because the sun moves through the day. And because of that, shadows from other plants changes the microclimate that's in. So from my window, my kitchen window, this is what I see. And I'm actually making a lot of changes this year because of what happened last year. So for example, last year I had instead of an endless summer, I had a white berry hydrangea, which apparently required more sunlight than this area provided because it kept getting fungal disease. It was only one season, but I noticed that, so I moved this endless summer from over here and try not to move too fast. So I had the endless summer in this location last year. It didn't do too well. I think it needed more sunlight than this area provided because also you see here I have my limelight, which is growing pretty well. So this one is actually catching up. This one, there's two plants here. This one is catching up to this one. Oops, excuse the blurry. And this one, believe it or not, got mold over at least 3 times. And it's making a good recovery. And I think that's because I heavily mulched this with wood mulch. And I also incubated with red wine mushrooms. So the soil is very good here because of that. And we're going to fix the fence there. Or at least my father-in-law is going to help us with that. So sunlight, very important. This is incredible. It's doing pretty well here. It does get wilty in the summer. I'm in the south, in Virginia. So it gets very hot. And oh my goodness, do you see this? The birds hacked at this again. Let me see if I see any other one. Because I made in my other video some cuttings. And here, let me just strip this and put this in here in my little cutting area. Bernard messed with the camera, so I wasn't able to capture what I was doing, but basically the branch I had snapped in two because I was pressing it down and it's still kind of like tender. So I put one here, you can see the white, and then the other one I put, I believe, right here. And with cuttings, you can tell which one aren't really making it by how dry it gets. But anyways, so why this spot works great for cuttings is, so you see it's south facing coming from that way. And then I notice when it's really hot out, this actually shades this area. And in the morning, this gets morning light. That's why I'm finding this spot to be more successful than others, even if I might forget to water or something like that. That's why you also mulch the area. So that's a very important criteria in terms of designing the garden, is knowing where the sun is and understanding that not all plants need 100% sunlight, even though they might say that on the packet. For example, here, as I was telling you, in this area, I had the endless summer hydrangea, which we all know requires not full sun. However, you also probably heard that sunflowers need a lot of sunlight, which is kind of true, but not really, because I actually had some sunflowers along this side last year and they did fine, except they got some of these like worms in it. And I think it's because this area is probably a little shady and bugs don't like to be in full sun. And that's why it got more infested. At least that is my theory. However, it didn't stop the sunflower from producing seeds that the birds wanted. And I'll show you another spot where I had my sunflower. I also had it along like right here, which, excuse the mess, I still need to weed, but I'm going to have another sunflower here. And the idea is because it will get kind of sunny, I'm hoping this hydrangea would get the like the sunlight from directly above, and also maybe morning sun a little bit. Actually, no, this doesn't get morning sun because the house shades it. But what I'm hoping is if I have a sunflower here, it would help shade it when it gets really hot in the summer. So I probably will have the sunflower like right here. So this way, this will still get some sun. At least that's what I'm thinking so far. We'll see how it goes. And I had a tomato plant here last year and it grew like crazy. It was a sun gold. So I'm having it again here because I like this location for it. And a lot of garden design is also just observing what happened and just trying to do better the next season. So last season I had my, against the wall, I had my hollyhock. I had two of them or two or three of them here, but because this place doesn't really get that much sun, they died. So that's why I have them in these totes, because I didn't really have time this year to make raised garden beds. And I liked how high these were, and because I had extra too. So I started some seeds. I really need a transplant. These are sunflower, Russian mammoth, and the Hopi variety. Originally, I was able to tell which one is which because the Hopi had like more purple stem, but now I can't really tell. Maybe I should go back in old footage, but what I probably would do is just move this to a sunnier spot. And I also have some basil and zinnias, which I had zinnias here last year, but I think it wants a little more sun, so that's what I'm gonna give it. And after I weed, I'm gonna also figure out what I'm gonna do with this area. So I'm learning from experience because this area doesn't get that much sun. Because of the raised tote, hopefully it could get more sun. So that's the idea behind putting the totes there as well and giving it some layered effect. Because once things grow and cover, you're not really going to see the plastic. I just have to figure down the line what I want to use. Because the plastic does not look that attractive, but it's good enough for now because I try to practice frugal gardening. And in this area, I'm also experimenting with creating a little rose garden in this area. It's been raining for like the last 2 days, so things are a little bit droopy. So this one is actually performing pretty well under this pear tree. So it gets some morning sun. And yeah, so I'm just experimenting because I know in the wild, when you go on trails, you see the wild roses doing pretty well under the canopy, under all the trees. It doesn't seem like it's getting really any sun, but it's probably getting some sun through the leaves of the trees, like damp shade. So I'm experimenting with that because, well, the difference between the wild roses and these flowers are definitely bigger than wild roses. Wild roses are like smaller. They don't have as many petals. So if you think about it, they probably don't need as much light to produce that many flowers. At least that's what makes sense to me. Yeah, these smell so good. Actually, since I have the rose, I'm going to show you my other one. So some of these got really bitten, but I'm resisting spraying them with soapy water. I'm hoping there's going to be some predator that come in and try to take care of them, because I'm trying to have my garden as maintenance free as possible. Well, these smells, this is just smells heavenly. I don't know the variety, but my parents, this actually came from my dad. He got it from Home Depot like maybe 15 years ago. And you can see the rootstock variety is kind of growing too. I'm going to try to cut that back. Yeah, look at it. Oops. It's so pretty. This one's like kind of droopy. But look how pretty that is. And this doesn't get that much sun because it's under my pear tree. But check out my fruit. Check out my fruits. And I have daylilies here. I'm not sure if it's going to be really blooming this year because they're under this pear tree, but we'll see. They've been in more full sun, but north, south, east, west. But I think like either west or east facing. But I literally just tossed them. Oh, there's a bird. I literally just tossed them here because I was transplanting a bunch and they're so hardy. So I literally just tossed them. And some of them I dug in a little more, but I didn't really water or take care of them. But they're so hardy. So if you can't really grow anything, daylilies is the way to go. Oh, and here is our pesky weed. Gotta get these. Uh-oh, I didn't get the root, but we'll see. And so I'm having hostas there, and oh, you came or not? He's by the roses. Yeah, so that's another garden tip too, is have fun with it. If you have extra of something, toss it somewhere where you're not sure if we'll make it or not, and if it does, you'll be like, oh, cool. Another design tip you probably heard of already is try to have symmetry. You see how I have those two cat mint, and they're blooming right now, and it just really accentuates the area. So let me put this, it just makes it look nice if your garden is like mine, where you kind of have stuff everywhere and you're just gardening and doing stuff as you go along without a clear plan. Having certain elements like that really does help put your garden together so it looks somewhat cohesive. Here's another example of just that symmetry. I have those two boxwoods there, and that big leaf thing right there, that's a Japanese burdock, and I need to transplant that. But because of the boxwoods, it's at least giving some cohesion so my garden doesn't look crazy, which leads to another design tip that I learned, which is try to have one plant that is consistent throughout the garden. It just makes it a little more, it's more pleasing to the eye. So I'm going to show you another example of how I use the catmint, which is a great plant. It's very hardy. It's really maintenance free. You just have to split it. So you can see how this one's here. And then if you follow your eye, I have another bush there. Those bricks I gotta move, but the distance you can see those other two. It just makes it look more nice, especially if you have plants everywhere. I'm trying to establish more plants because I want to prevent the weeds. As you see, if you don't keep an eye on stuff, the weeds just get everywhere. Oh no, this one actually coming from in here. And these are actually pretty easy to weed. I can just rip it up. And another tip that I am not practicing is you should try to weed every time you're out just a little bit, because that way it doesn't get overwhelming. Because I have an air, because it just, the garden just looks nicer when you have plants that you want to have there versus just random plants in it. One crucial tip is when you are weeding, make sure you have an area where you can toss your weeds to. I used to just toss them right around there, but then I realized it looks terrible, so I stopped. But just keep in mind what plants you know needs a little more fertilizer, because these will break down in compost. So I'm gonna have it by my artichoke. I'm just gonna, this is when the sun comes out, it's gonna wilt down and kind of like compost in place. And the best thing is you don't really have to dig in the ground or anything. And it also protects, you have bare soil nearby, it acts as a mulch as well. And this is dandelion that I need to cut down. Also, when you're working on your garden, if something blooms too quickly, see, I cut that off, and did this just come out again? This looks very small, so I'm trying to force this to get bigger before it produces any fruit. You see how I just cut that? And I think I can show you the top to this too, but that's another design tip is if you want a plant to be bushier because it gives it a more full look, you have to prune it somehow, because then it stops it from getting taller and it'll make it more wide. Oh, so this is the artichoke that I just broke off yesterday, and I did this because it's just so small. Last year mine were like bigger, so that's why I'm trying to force this to reconsider fruiting. And now I'm gonna move this plant and add more of my artichoke plants that I'm starting from seed, which I will show you. This isn't a design tip, but it is related to it in the sense that for budgeting purposes, it's better to start certain plants from seed. So these are my artichoke, and I started these. Oh, the date fell off. Yeah, I started these all on the same day. So 5/8. Today is May 30th. So it's been, how long is that? Like almost a month or 3 weeks? Around that time, that's how big it got. With some drought issues too, because I didn't water it. I mean, I left it out in full sun, and because it's in these egg cartons, it kind of dried up, and I was scared it won't grow, but thank goodness it did. So that's why I always check on your plants if you want success, especially if they're babies. Yeah, oh, so going back to this tip is for the cohesive look, it's best if you learn how to propagate or grow your own plants. That way you can have quantities that is budget friendly. Or else if I bought this in store, I think for, if it gets a little bigger, one plant is around $3.50 probably, or $4. And you just say 4 times 5, that's $20 already. So it's more money that I want to spend, and the pack of seed isn't that much. because I want to show you something real quick. So these are Chasta daisies. I started from seeds. I think the seed packet was from the dollar store, so it was really cheap seeds. It was like less than $1, I think. And I was just at my local nursery. They were selling one Chasta daisy with flowers for like $19. So you could already see that's a huge savings in money, because the more you garden, the more you want plants, and 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 because of that, it's just like you're gonna spend so much money if you really want a certain style. So it's just more budget friendly to start it from seed, and it's just, I think it's a little fun. It's more fun. I have this is my chilies. One of the most helpful design tip that I learned was using shrubs. So here I have two proven winter rose shrubs, and they really take up a big area, so that way I don't have to weed. However, as you can see, the weeds are getting a little out of control, which my goal is to weed today. And I'll actually show you a before and after on the importance of getting rid of the weed. So let me just try to go back so you can see what it looks like. And then after I weed, I'll show you what it looks like. There's a plane flying overhead, so hopefully you can hear what I'm saying. I'm going to weed this whole area, and then so you can see what's plants I want and what the design is actually. Here is another area that is in need of weeding. And I'm also going to show you what it looks like after being weeded and how much better it looks. And after just a little cleanup. This video actually ended up being longer than I planned. So please stay tuned for part 2 to see the post-weed garden and more garden design tips that I picked up. Thanks for watching, and if you want to follow our journey, please give us a subscribe, click, and if you liked this video and thought it was helpful, please give us a like. Thank you. Until next time. Bye.